this game service available to me. And then on the budget gamers, they also want a large variety for a monthly subscription because they think that would be a great value. So and we're a little surprised at sometimes the amounts of money they said they'd be willing to pay, but they kind of don't really, they have a hard time with spending $60 or even $50 or $40 on one game. They'd rather just say, just charge me this month and I've got a bunch of games. They see that that would be a lot of value. And then they also like the idea of cross-platform, again, being value-oriented. Is let me buy the game once and just play it wherever I want. So to me, one of the biggest takeaways here is to see that these are 3 different gamer segments, but there's a lot of commonality on what they're all asking for. So that's why I think it's a mistake to say, well, we're going to focus on this segment. We think this is the one. When in reality, I think it's that they all want, it's kind of the same thing. And there's some nuances, some differences in what it means to them, which to me is just more about a marketing message more than what the features of the service would have. So, kind of in conclusion here, and this is sort of a little bit more my opinion, more than AT&T's, but why is game streaming ready to take off? Well, the first thing is there's a critical mass of households with sufficient bandwidth. That's really important. This is a free report. You can go on Akamai's site. It's the state of the internet. And this is a rough estimate we did, which is they said in 2014 in the US, about 36% of households have at least 10 megabit connections. Now that's what we would consider the bare minimum of what you would need, because you need X amount of that bandwidth to run the game, plus you need it for everything else that might be going on. Or there might be 2 instances of the game being run in different TVs in the household. And then if you kind of if you look at their growth rates and you project that out, by 2017 it could be as much as 70%. I actually think that this is a little conservative, to knowing from the investments that AT&T is making. Of course, we know cable speeds tend to be pretty fast already. So I think there's that a lot of households in the U.S. are going to have bandwidth, and that's not counting 4G LTE and more advanced wireless networks too. Where one of the things that AT&T does is if you live in a region where you can't get our wired service, we can put a cellular modem in your house and offer up internet through our wireless network as well. So that also is an option and is something that we can continue to invest in. Also too, a lot of gamers are willing to buy games without this. I think somebody mentioned that yesterday too. We found it to be, like, for the core gamers, as much as 49% said that they'd be willing to buy. And then when we asked them, well, what would make you more willing to buy a game essentially digitally or without a disc? They said, lower price, chance to play before I buy. So, they're looking for those kinds of things, and they'd be more willing to ditch the disc. Even the couple gamers are still upwards around 47%, so almost half of them said I don't need a disc. And I think that's probably, if we probably look back a few years, that's changed quite a bit. Those attitudes have changed. People are expecting that games are going to follow music and video towards a service option. Without being prompted, a lot of people say, oh, this is like Netflix for games. We didn't put that in front of them that way, but when they read the idea, it's like, oh, it's like Netflix. Yeah, I like that idea. I subscribe to Netflix, so yeah, I do that. And I think they're just going to expect it. I think they're going to start going, well, why can't I do this? Why can't I have the same type of service, but with games instead of video or music? And the next thing is, too, that I think gameplay can be good enough. When we get hung up on focusing on the core gamer and that they scrutinize everything and they can tell the difference between a 2 millisecond response time on one thing versus the other. The reality is, and this happened with music and video, where when these services were launched, people said, well, it may not be the best, that the enthusiasts might expect, but it's good enough. It's good enough because the convenience of it overcomes, all the something else. Like, it's not quite as, the resolution is not quite as good. It stutters a little bit from time to time, whatever the case might be. And the last thing is I think PlayStation now is going to draw a lot of mass market attention because they are PlayStation and they're the ones pushing it out first. And I think they're going to start to turn skeptics into believers. We did hear some core gamers said, oh, this sounds like a streaming service. Like I said, we didn't mention that word. Oh, you can't stream a game. Well, how would that work? And the other thing they got hung up on was, which PlayStation now isn't necessarily going to help, but they're like, well, why would I want to stream a game to my game console and play it that way? Why don't I just buy this? I'm like, no, you don't need a game console. And they just like couldn't overcome this idea of that if I'm going to play games on the TV, I need a console because that's just what they're used to. So I think that's it. Yeah, thank you. I hope that was you found that useful and a little more insightful and or a little bit different than what you heard yesterday. Guys. Anybody have any? Do I still have time for questions? And
yeah.
We good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
What was the sample size?
2,000.
2,000
gamers. 2,000 gamers across the U.S. On the survey part you're talking about?
Oh, and the qualitative.
The qualitative, well, yeah, I should have mentioned that. We did, of those top 3 segments, we did focus groups in Kansas City, Dallas, and LA. And we did 3 groups of 10 people, 8 people, and that included 8 couples, so double that, right? So we did each of those 3 segments in each of those cities. So 9 focus groups total. And then from each focus group, we picked one member or one participant and went to their house the next day and sat down with them for some more time, videotaped where they play, and like for example, the core gamers often, especially if they lived at home, they would be they'd have the setup in their bedroom. One family, they had the PlayStation was in the boys' room, so dad and the boy would go upstairs and play in the bedroom, and so it was like kind of frustrating to them that the big TV was in the family room, and they couldn't just go down there and play easily without having to buy another PlayStation or transfer it. But yeah, that's how we did it.
I was curious, how many people think of, when I think of the AT&T service, expect it, like a game service, not just to be more bandwidth, right, to get games from whatever, versus a specific, I guess, channel of services? Like when you first started talking, I thought, oh, I'll just buy more bandwidth, versus expecting specific content to come from you. Like, I guess curious how that sort of segments, like how people use their services when they just order more bandwidth. Does that make sense?
Let me see. It sounds like what you're saying is that if they order more service, they're expecting to consume that additional service tier with something. Is that what you mean?
I guess, if you sold me a gamer service, right, I'd be like, oh, just give me more bandwidth or make it faster. Versus going, oh, make it faster, and here are 10 games from AT&T that you ought to stream. See, that's 2 different things to me.
Yeah, we didn't really get into it at that level.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm able to answer that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you think because AT&T already has such a big market presence and it's present in every household, do you think AT&T will always be the channel providing these games, or can it be the driver one day?
I don't know, and that's kind of, we're still at that stage of collecting data to understand it. It could very well be that we choose to just put some servers in our data centers and support it, be a platform provider. We could be the ones to offer the service. We do have Uverse TV, so we do provide content to homes already. But no, I don't know at this point what we're going to do. Any other questions? All right, thank you.